For those of you who are new, thank you. We appreciate your presence. For those of you who are regulars, last session of the regular season. So we run our program September to May, and then we take June and have a half-day wellness event. We'll talk about that here in a minute. And then we take July and August off because of the summer breaks and everybody, just getting into break. So this is the last session of the regular season. Appreciate you being here. We've got a tremendous speaker today. I'm just so excited to have Amy be here today. Just a couple of housekeeping things. June 13th, the Lead Well event. It's the only event we charge admission to. It's a half day, and we've got an incredible lineup for you to come and spend a half day at. It's at Electric Works, the Do It Best event center down there. So if you haven't signed up, we need you to sign up. Normally, we don't need you to sign up for these, but we need you to sign up. Okay, so go out, register. If you are so inclined, we still have a couple of sponsorships available. We would love to have one or two new sponsors as part of the program. If you want to do that, you can talk to Denise or Jared or any of the board members here, and they'll help you get that done. Okay, let's see, what else? Okay, so we're going to hear from, where's Shandy? There she is. We're going to hear from Shandy. I remember her name because I love Line and Cool Summer Shandy, and we're coming into summer, and so here's Shandy.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. No one could pronounce my name my entire life growing up until they came out with Summer Shandy. And then everyone was like, oh yeah, but it's been helpful. So I'm here with Stillwater. I am on the business development team. I've been here 6 years, and I have the pleasure of giving you the little Stillwater moment this morning. I'm going to talk about our We Honor Veterans program. Has anyone heard of We Honor Veterans before, the program, national program? Thanks, Emily. So I have my little notice because it was originally a part of the National Hospice and Palliative Organization. They changed their name recently. It's part of the National Alliance for Care at Home. And so what that is, it's a national organization. They partner with hospice agencies of all kinds, different VA facilities, to provide resources and education that help recognize, honor, and care for our veterans in a meaningful way. The We Honor Veterans empowers end-of-life care partners to meet the unique needs of American veterans and their families. So what the program does is they provide educational resources and tools for agencies to be able to provide different meaningful care to our veterans. So it's very veteran specific. They promote veteran-centric educational activities. They increase our capacity to serve veterans. And they increase access and improve quality. There are 5 different levels, so you can be a 5-level partner. We are currently a level 3, but we have an awesome committee that is committed to getting us up to a level 4, and I'm part of that committee. I'm very excited about it. I'm very passionate about veterans. I love this program. That's why I wanted to be on the committee here at Stillwater. My dad was a veteran. He was in Vietnam. And so I'm just very passionate about our program. But you can reach different levels by assessing your organization, how they serve veterans currently, and then using those tools and the programs that they have to up your level. So that's how you can reach different levels. But again, the main goal is to focus our course on veterans and recognize them. I'm pulling this out here. So part of the way that we do that is through We Honor Veterans programs at different places. So sometimes we partner with nursing home centers in the community, assisted livings. But Deb over there, wave hi Deb. Deb is also on our business development team, and I'm excited because Deb is actually working with one of our local assisted living communities, and we partnered with a local Legion this year. And so they're going to do a huge community event that's part of the We Honor Veterans program, and they're going to have 100 veterans. I'm so excited about that. That's going to be coming up later this year. That's going to be the first time that Stillwater's done an event that big. But typically we partner with them. What we do is we go out to the community and we honor every single veteran. But they do not have to be on Stillwater service. It's not about Stillwater. It's truly about recognizing and honoring the veterans. So we give them this beautiful certificate, has their name programs in, it's signed by our CEO, Leslie Friedel. We honor them, we pin them. So oftentimes we'll have a veteran volunteer come along with us, one of our veteran volunteers here at Stillwater, and they will pin the veteran. So veteran to veteran, and then they will salute the veteran after they pin them. There are always a lot of tears at these programs. They are so special. You would not believe how many times I've heard stories from these veterans about the time that they served, about what it was like when they came home. Oftentimes, I mentioned my dad was a Vietnam veteran. He never spoke about it. He didn't talk about that. Vietnam was a very difficult war. A lot of veterans came home and they never spoke about it again. But there are veterans out there that do. And when we do this program and when they're recognized and honored, some of them will say, this hasn't happened to me in so long. This is the first time I've felt seen or heard in a really long time. Such a special event, very cool. So this is what we do. We go out, we give them a certificate and a pin, and that's just one of the many programs that makes us part of the National We Honor Veterans program. But that's my favorite, not just because that's the one I'm most likely part of. But so if you have any questions about becoming a We Honor Veterans program partner or just about our program, you can find me afterwards. But otherwise, enjoy your program. Thanks for coming.
If you can't hear me, raise your hand, but I bet nobody's raising their hand. Okay. My name is Denise Mills. I am on the board of First Fridays. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here today. Great to see a good group. It is my pleasure, of course, to welcome and to introduce Amy Lehrman today as our speaker. Like many of us, Amy is a daughter, sister, wife, mother, friend, a leader in her work as a CPA. She's a person I've known for, I think, about 15 years now. She'll talk about many of these roles today and how she integrates that with her career, as well as a little bit about her background. She's the managing partner of Katz, Sapper, Miller's Fort Wayne office, which is a leading regional CPA firm in case you're not familiar. She's also actively involved in our community. She serves on a number of boards and committees. She's been named as one of KPC Media's influential women of Northeast Indiana, as well as being recognized by Greater Fort Wayne's 40 Under 40 Award. Lots of good stuff. Can't wait to hear from her. Help me welcome Amy Lehrman.
All right, thank you very much, Denise. When Denise and Wayne asked me to come speak today, I said, I'm an accountant, right? People normally do not sign up to listen to an accountant unless they're going to get a free hour of CPE out of it. So I can promise you nobody needs to run out of the room. I'm not going to spend an hour talking about taxes today. I will spare you that. What I am going to share with you today is something that is deeply personal to me. I'm going to share my journey as a kidney donor. You may or may not know April was National Organ Donation Awareness Month. And so we're right on the heels of April, so I thought this would still be appropriate to share with all of you. There are over 100,000 people across the United States waiting for organs, and 1,300 of those are in Indiana, and 100 of those are right here in Elm County. It's okay. So I'm just going to share my journey with you. I'm happy to answer any and all questions, so feel free if you have questions along the way. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised on a farm. I grew up in a really small town, St. Joe, Indiana, which is about a half an hour north of Fort Wayne. Grew up on a farm with 11,000 chickens. My grandparents had started an egg business. So I grew up running around with my grandma to Owen's grocery store or Richard's restaurant and delivering eggs. We got rid of the chickens when I was probably, 11 or 12, and didn't get rid of the smell of the chickens until I was probably about 18. I am a CPA, so I went to Eastside High School and then went to Manchester for college. Great accounting program. Was fortunate to do an internship in tax and audit to learn which one I wanted to do. Audit was not the life for me, and tax was, and so I spent my entire career, I just finished my 18th busy season doing taxes. So I spent the first decade of my career at a large national firm here in town, and then about 8 years ago joined KSM. And what really drove me to KSM was two things. One was I was born and raised in Northeast Indiana, and I truly believe it is our job to leave this community better than when we came into it. And it was important to me personally to work with a firm that really aligned with those values and wanted to invest in our community. Not that the large national firm necessarily wasn't, but KSM came into the Fort Wayne market to be here and be present and make a difference. And it became very apparent to me that that more closely aligned with what was important to me. And so that was one of the drivers. The other driver was from a mentor and guidance standpoint. You know, I spent 10 years at this large firm with 400 partners, and there wasn't a single partner in that firm who really knew anything about me. And so it's important to me to be at a firm where there was a focus on guidance and mentorship. And that is one of our pillars at KSM, that we invest a lot into our people and make sure that they have the tools and resources they need to be successful. I'm also very involved in the community. Junior achievement is where my heart is. We've got a few friends from JA here. If you don't know about JA's 3DE program, let me know afterwards and we can talk about it. We're doing some really, really cool things in the community, literally transforming students' lives and creating an immersive experience where the students can really learn and be prepared to walk into the workforce the day after they graduate high school. And hopefully stay here in our local market and keep that talent here locally. I'm a wife. My husband has always been super supportive of me. He made the decision a few years ago to stay home and help raise our family. We have 3 small kids. He's a very dedicated football and baseball coach. If you did not know that it was possible to spend 4 hours on a Sunday watching game film of a 9-year-old baseball, I assure you that it is. He spends lots of hours and is very dedicated to his coaching career. That's a picture of my 3 little kids there. My daughter Grace is 11. She's my sweet, funny, smart bookworm, loves crafts. And then my middle son Brantley is 9. He's my sports guy. He's in every sport you can imagine. So that means I am then the taxi to all of these sports. And then my youngest Colton is 5. He's still the sweet one that still runs to the door and he gives me a hug when I come home. And is still happy to see me, so I'm going to hold on to that as long as I can. And then I am also a kidney donor, and so that's what I'm going to spend the majority of the time talking about. I will weave in a few leadership and business tidbits here at the end, to know that's what you're all looking for too. So my journey really started about 10 years ago now. My brother got very sick. It started with, he just felt like he had the flu. And he's a man, and so he did not go to the doctor for about 3 weeks, just kept not feeling well. So he was finally convinced to go to the doctor, and they immediately realized that something was not right, and he had very high blood pressure, and he was in stage 4 kidney failure. And so they spent some time trying to figure out, did the high blood pressure cause the kidney failure? Did the kidney failure cause the high blood pressure? How do we treat it? What do we treat first? He was in the hospital, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks maybe. They decided to start him on dialysis to try and reverse the damage that had been done to the kidneys. And after about 2 days of dialysis, they quickly realized that that was not going to work and he was going to need a transplant. And my brother was 34, 36 at the time, and he was very young. He had 2 little kids at home, had his whole life ahead of him. And so that was a tough pill to swallow. So from the minute that we found out that he would need a transplant, I mean, there was never a doubt in my mind if I was able to donate, I would. I like to believe that he would do the same for me if the roles were reversed, even though we did not get along very well when we were kids. We actually had a rule in our family that the 2 of us were not allowed to sit next to each other in the car because we would fight. I have another sister as well, my younger sister. And so between my sister and I, both of us kind of agreed it didn't matter which one of us, both of us could or would donate. Since my brother was young, we kind of figured he would need another transplant at some point in time in his life. So, it didn't really matter which one of us went first. One of us would do it now, the other would do it later. So I went through, once they determined he would need a transplant, we started the testing. And the first round of testing is just to make sure that you have the right blood type, and then they match, I think they're called alleles. If there are medical people in here, you can correct me if you want. I'm going to mess it up. I'm going to get it wrong. But if I remember correctly, there's 6 alleles, and so it doesn't really matter if you match 1 to 5, you're a match. If you match all 6, then you're a perfect match. And so I get the phone call, I'll never forget, I was sitting at the Grand Wayne Center at the end of the year trying to get my last few hours of CP that I needed to maintain my license. And I saw a phone number come up on my phone from Indianapolis. And so I stepped out and took the call, and they let me know that I was not only a match, but I was a perfect match, which is the absolute best thing that you could get. It's like winning the lottery to be able to get a perfect match with me. And so right from that moment on, I mean, again, there was just no doubt that I was going to do this. And so, and it was right around Christmas time, so I was able to share at Christmas time with my whole family that I was a match and I was starting the process. So I started going through the testing. There's a lot of, I mean, they test you for everything under the sun. If you can be tested for it, I was. They do not let you go through the process unless you're in pristine health. It is a very donor-focused approach. They do not want to cause any undue harm or stress. Of course, there's risks associated with donating an organ, but they want to make sure that it's not going to cause any unnecessary harm to the donor. And so, started going through the process. They take a lot of blood. I remember one of my first appointments, the lab technician comes over with a tray of, I don't know, 20, 25 tubes in it and sets it down. I thought, oh, she's probably just been filling her stock over here. And she starts taking my blood, and after about 15 tubes, I said, those are all for me, aren't they? And she goes, yeah, they are. So, okay. I didn't know it was possible to have that much blood come out of your body at one time and still walk out of here, but I did. So a lot of testing. They do a lot of different blood tests, a lot of urine tests, and then you get to what I'll call kind of the final stage. And all throughout this time, I was very open and honest with my brother and my family of where I was at in the testing, what was going on, what the next step was, how far away are we from being able to schedule a surgery. And the other thing was, all along I knew, at the time I had 2 children, and my husband and I always knew we wanted to have 3. And so that was kind of the question that was in the back of my mind is, I knew I wanted to have a 3rd child, and I didn't know what that meant in terms of the donation. And so one of the last stages is you go down to Indy. We originally started our testing through IU Medical down in Indianapolis. And so I go down to IU Health, and you meet with a nephrologist, a urologist, the surgeon, you get a chest x-ray, EKG, CT scan. You meet with a financial planner to make sure that you're going to be okay, covered. You're going to have to take some time off of work. So again, they want to make sure that you're covered from that respect. You meet with a psychologist to make sure that you're not being coerced to do this and that you're in the right headspace and mentally prepared to go through the journey that you're about to go through. So they put you through everything. But knowing that this was the question that I had, my sister and her husband actually went with my husband and I to this appointment because, again, if they ended up telling me that I shouldn't do this surgery, my sister was going to step in to do it. So we meet with the surgeon, and he does say, if you want to have a 3rd child, you should probably do that first before you donate your kidney. And so I said, okay. I had to get to a point where I was at peace with that decision of choosing to not give my brother this perfect match kidney and make him wait. And what made that decision a little bit easier was that my sister was there and was going to step in and do the transplant. I underestimated how difficult that would be to say to his face that he was going to have to wait. But of course he was understanding, and again at the time my sister stepped in and started the process to do the testing as well. Unfortunately, some things came up or some things happened, and she had to pause her testing. And so then my brother was left with being stuck on dialysis every single day. He had a machine at his house, and he was hooked up to this machine for 10 hours a day, every single day. Ended up being for about 6.5 years. It is no way to live. He literally would go to work. He worked in industrial maintenance at a steel plant. He would go to work. He would come home and hook up to his machine, and that was his life. And it was a very, to know that I have this gift to give him and to know that I'm trying to make the right decision for my family and for my health. And it was not an easy process to go through, to feel like I had gotten his hopes up and then taken this gift away from him. But we did get to the point, I had my third child, and after my youngest was born, I went back to my brother and said, okay, I'm ready to start the testing again. At this point, my brother decided to switch to St. Vincent's Hospital instead of IU for various reasons, which meant he had to start over all of his testing again. And then I had to redo all of my testing. And then COVID was thrown in there. So everything got delayed quite a bit. And other than that initial phone call to my brother to tell him that I was ready to go again, this time around I didn't tell anybody that I was doing the testing. I think my husband was the only person who knew, because I was too afraid to get his hopes up again or to have something happen and it not be a for sure thing. So the second time around, went through all of the testing again at St. Vincent's. They have a phenomenal care team. The transplant team there was, I wanted for nothing. They took great care of me, answered all of my questions, spent hours on the phone with me to talk through all of the different aspects of the surgery and what I could expect. I was able to meet with several donors before I went through my surgery. I was fortunate to talk to about a dozen different donors and learn about their experience. And what I learned was everybody has a different experience. So, somebody in here may have also donated, and you may have a very different experience than what I've experienced. And so, after a very long wait, we were able to get our surgery scheduled. So, I'll never forget the moment I got to make a phone call and tell Adam that everything was cleared and we were scheduling. And at the time, I got cleared for surgery in January of 2022. And so I said, what's the first date available? He's waited long enough. I was not going to make him wait a second longer than he needed to. So the first available date was March 2nd. And I said, well, great, that's a bonus. I'm going to miss the 6 busiest weeks of the year. Yes. And so we set the date for March 2nd. So I got to call Adam and tell him, hey, pack your bags. We're going to the hospital on March 2nd, and we're going to do this. And so everything was going to plan. And you know that saying, we make plans and God laughs? That's kind of what happened. So we had surgery scheduled, and about 2 weeks before surgery, I get a phone call from my brother on a Thursday night at 10 o'clock at night. And my brother and I are not, we don't call each other. If we need something, he'll text me. We're not calling each other, talking on the phone for hours, and especially not at 10 o'clock at night on a Thursday. So when I saw his name come across the caller ID, I thought, oh, I better answer this. And so I answered the phone, and he said, hey, I just got a call from the hospital. They have a kidney for me, and I think I'm going to take it. I was like, okay, why are you going to take it? And he said, well, you've got 3 little kids at home. I'm busy with work, and you don't want to have somebody go through this unnecessary surgery or pain if they don't have to, right? Not necessarily. You don't want me to have to go through this. And so he said, well, I don't want you to have to do it if you don't, here's another option out. And he had about 10 minutes to make the decision, and the hospital was going to call him back. And I said, well, throughout the process, I had all this education. I got to learn what it means for somebody to get a perfect match or a living, a donor from a kidney from a living donor versus a deceased donor. And so I started asking him all these questions. Well, how long has the person been deceased? How did they die? How old are they? How good of a match are they? It's like, well, I don't know. Normally when you get that phone call, you're just going to take whatever kidney they give you. And he'd been homeless for 6.5 years and had never once gotten a call. And then he gets this call 2 weeks before our surgery. And so the hospital calls him back. I'm on speakerphone on his wife's phone. The hospital calls on his phone. So we're all on speakerphone together, and I'm sitting there asking the surgeon all of these questions and trying to understand, how soon can you get him in surgery? How long has the person been deceased? How old are they? How good of a match are they? And then Adam said, well, what should I do? And neither of us are in the business of making life or death decisions. I'm an accountant. And so I said, well, Adam, you've got, like, we're ready to go. You've got a kidney ready to go. And you could have the chance to pay it forward. Like, you can go save somebody else's life. Like, you can let somebody else get that phone call tonight. You know, why would you take a kidney from somebody else when we've got one ready to go? And I think that's what got through to him, and he was kind of like, okay, this is my chance to, you know, to help somebody else. And so he ultimately made the decision to stick with the plan and pass on that kidney. And so we hang up the phone with the hospital, and I had the biggest panic attack that I've ever had in my life, because I just helped my brother give up a for-sure kidney. And I started thinking, you know, what if this isn't a for-sure thing? What if something happens? What if I get hit by a bus and both my kidneys get sliced in half? You know, we were still 2 weeks away, and I could have just potentially helped my brother give up a for-sure thing. He could have been in surgery tomorrow and gotten the kidney. And that weighed very heavily on me. And I remember praying to God, I just needed a sign that we had made the right decision. And so so that was on a Thursday night. And then Sunday, my brother ended up getting very, very sick. He got peritonitis and ended up in the hospital. And so the donor coordinator called me on Monday morning, and the first words she said to me were, you guys made the right decision, because he had an infection brewing. What had happened was his cat had gotten into the room where all of his equipment is set up. And again, he's been doing this for every day for 6.5 years. He had never once had a problem. But the cat got in there and bit one of the pieces of tubing, and the bacteria from that one cat tooth bite caused this infection. And she said, if he had gone through and taken that kidney and been in surgery Friday morning while this infection was brewing, it would have killed the new kidney and the transplant would have failed. And that was the sign I needed from God to know that this is his plan. He's got it under control. Hand it over to him, and he's going to take care of us, and that this is all going to be his will and how it's supposed to be. So after that, we got to go to surgery, and so we ended up having to reschedule. Surgery got pushed back to April 11th of 2022. So I ended up only missing the busiest week of so like 6 weeks. Still worth it. But the surgery went off beautifully. This is a picture on the left here of my brother and I right before surgery. It was really, it was a really nice setup in terms of they let my brother and I, when we had to get there early for the pre-op, they put us in rooms across the hall from us, and they let my parents come back, and so then they let my brother come over and hang out in my room. So for about an hour before surgery, my whole family, my husband and my brother and sister-in-law and my parents and I, we all got to hang out, and being able to have my family there with me was probably one of the best things. I was super nervous. I've never had surgery before. This was a pretty big one to start with, and I was scared. I was very, very scared of the pain, of the fear of dying. You know, there's a lot of things that go through your head as you're making this decision. You know, I do have 3 kids, and you think, well, what if one of them needs my kidney? You know, do I need to save it so that, you know, if my husband or one of my kids needs it? And so having my family there and being able to just joke around and tease each other and spend that time together prior to the surgery was one of the things I'm most thankful for. And again, the care team at St. Vincent's was incredible. And then the picture on the right there is immediately after surgery when they wheeled me back to my room. I think my husband was just glad I was alive. He said when they first wheeled me back, he thought I was dead. He goes, you just looked, you can kind of tell him my coloring there. It did not look very good. But it was a very successful surgery. One thing that I took a lot of pride in, and I'm very proud of, is that the doctors and nurses all said that I had a rock star kidney. And I did not take this journey lightly, or the fact that I had this gift for him. I did a lot of work ahead of time to prepare. Throughout the process, you know, they tell you the most important thing is to keep your kidney wet. And so I started drinking 100 ounces of water every single day, probably about a year before the surgery to prepare my kidney and again, get it into the best shape that I could. I also hired a personal trainer and started working out with a trainer about 7 or 8 months prior to the surgery to make sure I was eating healthy, that I was in the best shape I could be, and that I could have a good recovery afterwards. And I spent a lot of time focusing on strengthening my core because they were going to splice through all of my abdominal muscles, and I had back problems in the past, and so I wanted to make sure that, again, I was going to be able to recover as quickly as I could as well. So I was very proud of the fact that he was able to get a rock star kidney and it started working for him right away. So they were all very happy with how the surgery went. The recovery, it was brutal. It was pretty rough. I always tell people, no matter what, no matter how much pain I had to go through, no matter how brutal the few weeks were, it was such a small inconvenience for me in the grand scheme of things, and what my brother got out of it. I would do it again in a heartbeat, no questions asked. It was really not that big of a deal. The picture on the left here is a picture of me with my care team. Behind me is my social worker, again, who was there to make sure that I was in a good headspace, that I was feeling okay. They are really with you every single step of the way and take incredible care of you. The middle woman behind me is my donor coordinator. I had her on speed dial. I called her 2 days before surgery, bawling my eyes out because I was scared. And she spent 2 hours on the phone with me, just calming me down, walking me through every step of the process, what to expect, and just putting my mind at ease. And then the gentleman there behind me is my surgeon, Dr. Gundy, and he was one of the most incredible human beings. His bedside manner. By the end of my journey, I ended up having his cell phone number because I ended up getting a fluke allergic reaction to the internal sutures that they used. So after about 3 weeks of recovery, when I think I was either cocky or ignorant, I was convinced, like, after a few days, like, I'm gonna be fine. Like, I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm taking 6 weeks off of work, I'm gonna clean out my closets, I'm gonna rearrange my pantry. Like, I had a lot of stuff I was gonna get accomplished and do. And I did none of it. I was a complete and total bum for 6 weeks. After about 3 weeks, I think I could have and should have felt pretty good and been able to function and maybe do some of those things. The pain had subsided. The other thing with kidney donation is that because most painkillers filter through your kidneys, they don't give you pain meds. I got Tylenol, and not extra strength. It was just regular Tylenol every 4 hours, which didn't cut it. And so there was quite a bit of pain throughout the recovery process. But the hardest part of my recovery was the allergic reaction that I had. The other hard part was the emotional side. And it's something that, again, everybody has a different experience, and I feel like some people had tried to prepare me for the emotional side of the recovery, but I think until you're in it, you don't realize how it's going to impact you. So throughout the whole journey, what drove me and what calmed me down anytime I did get upset or scared was knowing that my brother was going to feel better. He was finally going to be healthy. He was going to be able to live his life. And everybody that I had talked to said, the recipient is going to skip down the hallway to come and visit you in a hospital. They are immediately going to feel better, and like, you're literally changing their life. They are going to wake up and feel great, and they're going to run down the hallway to come and see you. And I know that was an exaggeration, but that one concept, that one thought is what I held on to and what got me through everything. And then that didn't happen. My brother had a very rough recovery because he'd been on dialysis for 6.5 years. The port that he had in his body essentially grew around this port. And so when they did his surgery, they had to rip that port out of him. So it wasn't so much from the kidney transplant itself, it was more from getting the port removed. And so he was in a great deal of pain. He was in ICU a little bit longer than they had planned for him to be. And so he did not get to come visit me, which is what normally happens. I got to go visit him. But because, that's the middle picture there, that was our first time seeing each other. But because we were in too much pain, I couldn't bend over to give him a hug. He couldn't get up to give me a hug, so that was the best we could get at that time. That was about 24 hours after surgery. So then, knowing that this is what I held on to and what was driving me was being able to see him feel better and live his life and, have that immediate relief. And then when that didn't happen, that was really hard emotionally. I don't think I was prepared for that. There were, the very first night after surgery, after my husband had gone home, I'm laying in the hospital bed by myself. He's in ICU by himself, and so we start texting each other at 3 o'clock in the morning, and and he's talking. We're both talking about how much pain we're in. And the next few days that followed were some of the most difficult from an emotional standpoint, because all I wanted to know was that he was better and that he could feel the relief or feel the benefit of all of this that we had just gone through. And it wasn't happening, and it wasn't, the recovery wasn't going as quickly or as smoothly as we all hoped. And to add to that, because of my recovery, I went home and I was pretty much laid up for a couple weeks. I didn't get to see my brother and give him a proper hug for 3 weeks after surgery. And there was this hint of, I don't know if jealousy is the right word, but everyone else in my family would get to go over and visit him and physically see him and see how he's doing and hug him. And here I am laying at my house, and the one thing I want to do is hug my brother and see him, and I can't do that. And so it was really hard for me, to kind of live vicariously through everybody else who's getting to go and physically see him and see the color in his skin change and see him, perk up a little bit day by day. There's this joke in my family that one of the traits my brother got from my kidney is that my brother's a very quiet, shy, doesn't talk, he's not really much of a people person, but after the surgery, he wouldn't shut up. And so my parents and my sister, everybody was joking of, okay, you must have gotten that from Amy's kidney then, because I'm more of a talker than he is. But I think it was honestly that he had been so sick for so long that he just forgot what it felt like to feel good and actually engage in conversation and talk with people. So finally, after 3 weeks, the far picture there on the right is when my brother got to finally come over to my house and visit me, and we got to get a proper hug and kind of talk through and share our experiences. My kids throughout the whole process, I remember I thought, oh man, this is going to be a great teaching point for my kids, right? So I'm like, hey, you guys better be nice to each other, because you never know, one of you might need a kidney from the other one. You guys should get along and stop fighting. And I remember at the time my daughter looks at me and she's like, I am never giving my kidney to Brantley. And I said, okay, that didn't work. But an 8-year-old me would have said the exact same thing. My cousin is here, she knows. 8-year-old me would have said the exact same thing about my brother back then. He used to tease me to the point of tears, telling me that I was adopted. He was awful to me, and so when I found out I was a perfect match, I said, you know who's a perfect match? Your full blood, not adopted sister, that's who. So now I will relate this back to business a little bit, a couple lessons that I learned throughout this process. So, like I mentioned, I didn't really tell anybody that I was going through the testing until we actually had a surgery date scheduled. And so when that initial surgery date got scheduled, like I said, it was originally in March. And so here I was going to leave my team high and dry. I'm the only tax partner for our entire team in the Fort Wayne office. And so I was just going to leave all of them. And I had a lot of stress and anxiety about that. And so then I started to micromanage a little bit and check in with everybody a little bit obsessively. And one of my directors sat me down at one point and she goes, do you not trust us? And I said, no, it's not about you. This is a me thing. Like I'm worried, I'm anxious, I'm worried about leaving you guys. And I felt guilty. And she's like, Amy, we got this. Like, you prepared us for this. We've got this. And you know what? I was out for 6 weeks, and like I said, I was a complete total bum. I didn't check my email once for 6 weeks. I did absolutely nothing. And you know what? The world didn't stop spinning. Nothing happened. Like, they were just fine. They were just fine without me. And so one of the lessons I want to share with all of you is, real leadership shows up not in your presence, but in your absence. If you've done your job as leaders and if you've prepared your team, you should be able to step away. I think as leaders, we don't take time. How many of you take all of your PTO or take the time off that you need? Probably not. But I would encourage you to take that time. You deserve it. You work hard. You carry a lot of weight, a lot of stress. Take the time off and allow your team that opportunity to step up and do what you've trained them to do. And you'll be surprised. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised what they're capable of. And so this is one of the best lessons I learned throughout this experience was that, I've got a team there that I can count on, who's capable, and they did a phenomenal job. They took care of our clients, they took care of each other, and they didn't skip a beat. They didn't miss me one minute that I was gone. So that's one thing I would encourage you all to do. Take time away and allow your team that growth opportunity to show you what they're capable of. This next one is something I'm really proud of. This is a true story. While I was sitting in the hospital about 24 hours after surgery with very few pain meds, I had this revelation and this concept came to me that throughout my whole journey with St. Vincent's, every person I met with referred to the ERAS program, which stands for Expedited Recovery After Surgery. I met with probably no less than 20 different healthcare professionals throughout their network. Every single one of them followed this program. And what that meant was, I got asked if I had allergies no less than 100 times. I finally asked one of them, I just told the person in the room next to us that I don't have any allergies. Why are you asking me again? He said, well, because, they want to make sure that I don't have any allergies. And something they may do or say may spur that, oh yeah, I did have an allergic reaction one time when I was 4 to something. And, so they always made sure that they asked those questions, even though I'd already been asked it 100 times, they're going to keep asking. Oddly enough, I did have an allergic reaction when I'd never been allergic to anything in my life. But the other thing that they did was this program was more about what I could do as the patient. Those doctors could come in and do everything exactly right. They could lean on their training. They could perform at the highest level and execute exactly how I would expect them to and hope that they do in the moment, right? But I could still not have a good experience if I don't play an active role in that process, right? And so this program was about the things that I could do as the patient to make sure that I was going to have a good experience. So I had to do things like do these breathing treatments, a couple weeks before surgery to help prepare my lungs. I had to wipe down my body with these weird cloths to make sure I wasn't going to get an infection. I had to put this weird gel in my nose. I had to drink these drinks. So there were several things that I was expected to do. And throughout the process, again, every healthcare professional I would meet with would say, did you do this? Did you? And they would check off to make sure that I was following the ERAS program. So I was sitting there thinking, in the client service world, I want every single one of my clients to have the best experience that they can with KSM. Nobody on my team goes into it thinking, I don't really want this client to have that good experience. We strive to make sure our clients have the absolute best experience they can with us. And we could do, and what we talk about internally, we actually have, we operate in what we call swim lanes. And so we have a client experience or client service swim lane. And that swim lane, all we talk about is how to improve our client experience. And I realized all we ever talk about is what we can do internally. And, we'll make tweaks and improvements. But even if we do all of that perfectly, this is a partnership between us and our clients. And in order for our clients to have the best experience, we need them to help play an active role in it too, so that we can make sure that they have a good experience. So this client service swim lane, they created this client experience roadmap. And so I'll walk you through here. And this is a tool now that we use with prospective clients and even some current clients to help level set expectations. Again, we want them to have the best experience possible, but it does have to be a partnership. And so the very first thing is, remember that we're a team. We're on your side. Sometimes I think, especially if you're an auditor, maybe they think you're out to get them, but we're here to come alongside you. We are a team, and nothing works if we don't approach it that way as a partnership. So that's one of the most important things we want our clients to understand. The second thing is ask us questions. You know, I have hundreds of clients. I'm doing my process that I know day in and day out. This may be your first experience. You know, if you're a startup, maybe you've never worked with an external CPA. Or maybe you've worked with another firm for 40 years and you've just switched to us. You don't, you know, things may be new or different. Ask us questions. You know, we don't know what you don't know. And the last thing I want is for one of my clients to get frustrated about, you know, because I set a progress bill. Well, that's normal, you know, that's my normal process, but you may not be used to that. So, you know, so we try to encourage our clients, you know, ask us questions. We want to be transparent, we want to be open. Ask us any questions at any time. The next one is be ready to share. In order for us to be the best advisors that we can, we need to know as much as possible about your business, and preferably before you are, you know, actually, you know, I want to know 3 years in advance that you're thinking about expanding to another state versus, oh yeah, by the way, we opened up a warehouse in Colorado last year. You know, the more you share, the more we get to understand you and your business, and, you know, how do you define success in your business? You know, what are the challenges that you see? The more we're communicating, the more frequently we're communicating, that's how we can be our best advisors to you, and that's how, again, you can have the best experience with us. Expect accountability. I was just talking with a very new client earlier this week, and we were talking about all these things he was going to send me. I said, okay, I'm going to send you the list, and you'll have it to me by noon tomorrow, right? And he goes, this is the accountability thing you mentioned, right? I said, yeah, if you want me to then have answers back to you by the end of the week, you know, I need to have that information by this time. So we mutually agree, and then we're going to hold each other accountable. And I expect you to hold me accountable too. If I tell you I'm going to get something by a certain time and I don't, I expect you to call me and call me out on it. So expect accountability both ways. Again, I want to meet your and exceed your deadline or your expectations, but you have to play a part in that as well. And the last one is using the tools provided. You know, KSM, we pride ourselves on using cutting edge technology, top of the line. We want to make sure that we're streamlining processes and communications so that we can be effective with your time and efficient with your time. You know, all of our clients are very busy people. Taxes is sometimes the last thing they want to be hassled with or deal with. So we try to implement a lot of tools and resources to allow our clients to have a really good, seamless experience with us. So this was one of the documents that came out of my journey of donating my kidney, was one of the realizations that we had as a team to try and help improve our client experience. And so with that, this was my brother and I at Christmas just a few months ago. I got him that shirt, and then as he was opening the present, I took off my sweatshirt and had my viewers, my kidneys. I do hang it over his head all the time, like, oh, you want mom to bring macaroni salad to the barbecue? I wanted to bring potato salad. She's bringing potato salad. I'm winning that fight every time. But anyways, thank you for allowing me to come and share my journey with you. Like I said, I am more than happy to answer any questions about my journey as a kidney donor. So thank you.
So Amy will be around for a little bit, so make sure if you guys have any questions or anything for her, especially about her journey and where she's at and her leadership, definitely take advantage of that while she's here. So I can't say enough for leaders and First Fridays. Is I've reached out and talked to so many leaders, but when a leader comes up here and stands and is authentic and vulnerable about their story, that's what First Fridays is all about. Everybody's story, there's something behind that person that is striving for perfection in the corporate world. We only see one piece of it. But when you come to First Fridays, you get to see another side, and you get to see that vulnerability and that authenticity. And let's give another round of applause for it. With that, I'm going to hit on a few things because first, it touched me, your story. The fact that you were humble and you worked through it with your brother, and you took that. I mean, you lost a body part, amazing. And then one thing that really hit home for me is leadership is in your absence. Think about all the work that you do and you pour into people on a daily basis. And at the end of the day, we worry about it because we want everything to work and we want everything to go. But all the work that you're putting in pays off when you're not there. And that really hit home for me because I've been through those same situations where I've been off of work and I'm like, man, I got to get back. I got to check that email. I got to make sure this person's doing this. And then when I get back, sometimes better than when I was there. You know, sometimes I'm the problem. But when you think about your leadership, think about what you're pouring into those folks and let them be the person that they want to be. So with that, I really do appreciate everybody being here. Really great story. And this is the close of our season 8, and we're going into season 9, which starts in September of next year. But this is, like Wayne said, this is our rally is coming up in June. So we really were thinking, what do we need to do as First Fridays? And what do we need to do for the people that come? And it's like, we really lack pouring into ourselves. So what we came up with is we're doing an Elite Well event. We did it last year. And our main things is first, mental health, right? Is we're always on the go. We're always just striving for that next thing. Sometimes we're not even satisfied with where we're at. We just keep trucking along and we don't take that time for ourselves. So we have Missy, who's going to be one of our keynote speakers on mental health. She's here today. So if you see her, take advantage of talking to her. Kelly Marvin is going to be talking about physical health. She's amazing, nutrition, she's got books, she's got all the stuff, but she cares about how you fuel yourself and how you take care of yourself physically. So another keynote speaker that we have, and then we have a financial health panel and a spiritual health panel. Our financial health panel, we actually have a couple here today. They are stepping up to tell, hey, you know what, not only your mental and your physical and your spiritual health, but hey, what are your finances at? What challenges are you having? Are you focusing on that? Because that's one of the biggest stressors that we have in our life. And then the next one is spiritual health. Right, wrong, or different, what you believe in, whether you're on the far end, you meditate, you take time for yourself, you believe in God and faith, whatever that is for you, our spiritual health panel is amazing. They talk about how you can just pour into yourself and really dig in and take that next level with yourself. So it's going to be an awesome event. Like Wayne said, that's the only thing, that's what funds us to be able to do August through May and get all the speakers and everything that we do behind the scenes and the great board that we have. So sign up for that. And again, if there's any possible way that you want to be a sponsor, please come up and talk to me. I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you and get you engaged with First Fridays, because we want to keep growing leaders. We want you guys to learn something new. And something we added last one is you guys see what we do here. Bring someone new so they can hear the stories and they can grow themselves and do better versions. So thank you all, and really hope you enjoy your summer, and we hope to see you at the June event. Thank you.
Don't leave until you've met someone new today. That's one of our absolute